Hello, everyone. Welcome, first of all, and so good to see you and actually see you this time. This time it's a little bit different than I normally do my calls. You know you are on video. If you've dialed in with the video, you can put yourself on mute. You can also um, turn off your video if you don't want us to see you, but it's really fun to be able to see everybody and to have this feeling of like, hey, we're all in a community, we're all here together. Um, so what I wanted to invite you to today is, it's Mercury retrograde, which is a perfect time, first of all, to reconnect with people, which is what I'm doing here with you. And the second part is to review, to go back, everything with right? Mercury retrograde, everything with reconnect, review. And I know human design has so much information that no matter where you are on your human design journey, if you just started looking into your chart, or maybe you've done level 1 or level 2, every level takes another layer of information and just makes it all deeper and fuller and more whole. But again, it's so much information that unless you actually play with it and practice it, you're not really going to actually have the chance to live it. And that brings me always back to my mission here on the planet, is to help people to be more aligned with who they truly are. And who you truly are is this beautiful picture that you have. I'm not sure if you have your chart in front of you, but that is your blueprint. That gives you your way to get back to yourself, to get grounded back in yourself, to find your balance whenever you feel, off track, and to be able to make the choices that are in alignment with your highest self, so that together we can raise the vibration of the planet. And that's really what I feel we're all doing here. So what I'm going to start with is just a very brief review, and then I thought it would be good to really delve into a number of charts so we can all play together. I'd love to hear from you via the chat what what do you see in the chart? What are things that you notice? Are you recognizing certain things that are defined, the colored in parts versus undefined? What does that mean to you? Because each chart that we're going to look at is a person. It's someone's life that we're looking at. And there's so much, like I said, there's so much information, so much depth in it that many eyes will probably bring out a whole lot. So I really hope that you play with me today, that we're all playing together with this. And let's go ahead and get started. So Micah says it's midpoint of Mercury retrograde today, which with some message for us from this messenger of God's. Lovely. We're all being the messenger for each other. All right, so here we go. So as you know, we are in this star field, in the middle of this star field that's surrounding us from all sides, and we are influenced by these little tiny particles that are being sent from these big planetary systems through to us, and especially at the moment of our birth, that first moment where we are, unprotected, where we are leaving our mother's body, that is the moment that we get imprinted. And the way that we can explain this is through pulling a number of different wisdom systems together. Each of these wisdom systems came in at the right point in human evolution to give us wisdom and information to help us at that point. And human design pulls a number of those together. So we're talking about astrology. So if you're looking at this beautiful figure in right here, this mandala, you see the zodiac signs, that's that inner circle. And you see the planets, those are the little glyphs on the inner side. You see the chakra system, which is reflected by those individual squares and triangles that you see. Some are colored in, some are not colored in, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. We see the Kabbalah, those are the connections between those centers that show where the energy flows all the time, Those are the areas that are either red or black, or where the areas are white. Those are the areas where information or the connection, the energy is not flowing consistently. Those are the areas where we invite other people or where we invite planetary transits to come in and make the connection for us, to give us a different access to ourselves. It's where we can be influenced as well, or even conditioned if we happen to be around that influence for a long time. We start to think that that part is us, while even though if we would be really by ourselves, we would not have access to that part. So all these different ways in how we can get connected, this is how we get to know ourselves in this lifetime. Then of course we have the I Ching, which is the outer circle. Those are the hexagrams of the I Ching that are being influenced by the neutrinos that are coming through the star fields, through those numbers on the inner circle. Those are what we call the gates that then get connected within the center figure. And when those, wherever you see in that center figure, you see the little numbers with a little circle around it, where they connect between centers, for instance, or even where they're just black by themselves or just red by themselves. Those little circles, those are the gates that are active in, in this case, this is my human design. But if you look at your own chart, wherever you see those little purple circles around the numbers, those are your active gates in this lifetime. Okay. Then we also have the DNA that's being affected, because what we do in human design, we actually take two calculations. We take the calculation of the moment of birth, and then we do another calculation about 3 months before birth. And that is the genetic line that comes through. It's the information from our forefathers. It's the information that they're passing on to us, those skills and strengths that they're doing really well, that they did very well, and we're getting a chance to use that information that they've learned. And then we're also getting passed on those things that in their lifetime they didn't get quite as far with. And so we're getting an opportunity to raise that vibration, bring it up to a higher frequency. So that is our, the genetic line that then passes through, which, by the way, is really fascinating. If you have the chance to see the genetic line from past, as well as what you're passing on, you're seeing the same gates in different areas that you're, oh yes, I so recognize this in my daughter versus my grandmother. It's very, very fascinating. For instance, I come from a family of teachers, and I can really see that in my design versus my daughter's design, who is about to go to teaching college, as well as my mother and grandmother and grandfather, who are also teachers. It's really fascinating to watch. And then quantum physics happens when we put different information together. Something new emerges, something more exponential, bigger than we could just see by the individual components by themselves. So this whole new picture, this whole new us emerges when we put all this information together. Okay. So one of the things that we look at when we're looking at human design, when we're looking at a design, is what is the human design type? Basically, it shows us how your energy works, what your aura is like, and how you invite new people, new opportunities into your life. And as we go through the different charts, you will see that there are people that have more of a manifestor aura, which is that top left, that yellow. And a manifestor aura is an aura that's more contained. And what that means for that person is that that person is more going outward in creating opportunities versus bringing opportunities in. They're actually the ones who are catalyzing opportunities, who are making things happen. On the right top, we have, this is what we call a generator aura. It's very enveloping. It's very warm. It's this aura that brings in opportunities in a very inviting way, just very easy. And the thing with a generator is that there are maybe too many opportunities, so there's a possibility of becoming overwhelmed, which is why the generator has this possibility to check in with themselves and really follow this internal yes or no, whether something is correct, to be able to determine which of the opportunities to go forward with. On the bottom right, we have a projector aura. A projector aura is very focused. Projectors are really amazing to be here as guides because they have this aura that looks into the person in front of them, and they just get this information in how someone is using their energy, and if they're using it in the correct way, and if not, where to put that person. What is the correct way that this person should be using their energy? So a projector really works very good one-on-one. And the thing with that very focused energy is that they're working best if their energy is invited. So where the generator invites to them, the projector needs to be invited by others to be able to bring in that focus. Okay. Then on the left bottom side, we have the reflector. The reflector is a very small percentage of the population, and it has this very diffuse aura that is like Teflon in a sense. It samples, it goes in and it tastes little things from people around them so that they really get an experience of their environment. So the reflector is here, in previous centuries, they would be the ones sitting on top of the mountain and having this overview of just knowing what was going on in the world. And people would come to them to be able to ask questions and get the answer from the higher part, the higher self, because that's what the reflector does. They commune with the higher so that they are able to let the environment know what's needed. And it's a very different experience than the rest of us here. Okay, any questions so far? And you can just go ahead and type them in if you have them. And I'll check the chat every once in a while, but I'll just continue because we have a lot to cover. We have a lot of charts. So here we have a very quick overview of the different centers in the body graph. Each center has its own function, its own focus, if you will. So if we go from the top down, we have the head, which brings in inspiration. This is where inspiration comes into our being. As you can see, it points out of our head. That's how it connects up to the higher. Then we have our mind, and our mind is really where we conceptualize. So inspiration comes in, and the mind tries to make sense out of it in different ways, so that then that can be transformed and experienced out through the throat, which is below that. The brown square is where we manifest. It's where we express ourselves. Below that, we have our center of the self. This is where we find our identity. This is where we find our place in alignment with the universe. It's where we experience our jobs, our work, our relationships through. Then we have that little triangle, the heart center, which is different from, my background is in heart math. And heart math, the heart in heart math is a very different heart than the heart in human design. Human design, the heart means willpower, determination, having the gall to do certain things, the courage. Then we have the spleen center. The spleen center is on the left side. The spleen center is the center of health, well-being. And this center has everything to do with our first incarnation in the world. It's how do we survive? How do we survive and stay alert? So it has everything to do with our intuition. Then in the center, we have that sacral center, which is a motor, which provides our life energy to be able to kind of keep going and keep moving, get things done in the world. On the right-hand side, we have the solar plexus, and the solar plexus has everything to do with our emotional way of being. which is actually the way that we are evolving now. It's our emotional growth. It's our emotional awareness. Emotions give different perspectives to what we experience. And if you have the center defined, your emotions will always be in flux, always going up and down. Versus if you have it undefined, it feels like, wow, there's a lot of drama going on. Very different experience of life. And then at the very bottom, we have the root center. The root center is where we ground ourselves. It's where life force comes in. So it also has to do with survival in the way of what can we get started? What do we need? Do we need the love of life? Do we need to recognize what our limitations are? Do we need ambition to make things happen? Do we need imagination to dream? Do we need to poke people to get reactions so we know where to go? So there is a lot of different, there are a lot of different flavors to this root center in how this energy comes in and is being moved upward. Now, one thing to recognize with this picture in front of you, we're seeing everything, like I was just saying, we have this on the left, we have this on the right. The thing is that here's this person. If you're imagining this person laying on a table, you will recognize that their left side is on our right side. Does that make sense? So if this person is laying on a table, this would be their left side, even though we see it as right, and this would be their right side. Does that make sense? And when we go into, when we look at circuitry, which are the ways that these centers are connected through different flavors, and that gives different meaning in how we perceive information, how we express information. So if we're looking at that, you can actually see that, oh, here's my mouse. I hope you can see my mouse. There's actually kind of a dog leg. Here is where the mind and the head are, that's actually the left side of the brain that governs the right side of the body and then goes up through the center. And the right side of the brain covers the left side of the body. Okay, just a little something to keep in mind as we're going to be looking at this. Okay, so Paula says, can we say for a pure generator, if when we receive an invitation, it's right for us, the sacral opens and we can feel hot in there, and it's not the sacral closed, we can feel like this or see like this? You can. It depends on how you feel it. Paula, I'm not sure if you did level 1 with us, but in level 1, there is a section that talks about the sacral center. Maybe session 2 or session 3, I'm not sure. We talk about, or there's a recording in doing a sacral session, because the sacral operates through yes and no, through open and close, as you can say. And it feels different for different people. So the sacral center actually has a sound to it. When little children are still within their sounds, because as we get older, many children are reprimanded for making noises. It's just be quiet, don't make a fuss, be quiet, don't say anything. And so therefore they lose the connection from the sacral to their voice. If you still have your sacral voice, when people ask you a question and it's a yes, it's a aha, mm-hmm, uh-huh. So it comes from this really deep mm-hmm coming up. And if it's a no, it's a mm-mm. It's a really deep, like going back down, energy moving backward, closing in your words. For me, it actually means I feel it differently. I feel like my body moves forward, versus if it's a no, it pushes back. It's like, it's not right. Okay, so the is difficult. Yes, exactly. So what I might suggest to you is to do that session, that exercise in level 1, where you can just listen to the recording and just start seeing or start hearing or start feeling how that moves for you. It's easier than asking yourself questions, because that's when you have your head involved, your mind tries to get into the way. But if you have someone ask you a whole list of questions that start with very easy questions, questions like, do you like this? Do you like that? You know, do you like this flower? Do you like that color? You can get into your body, and you can then let your body respond for you. Okay. Yeah, easy to feel the body for you. Beautiful. Excellent. Yes. All right. So as we're going to be talking about the different charts, keep an eye on the type. If you are familiar with profile already, keep an eye on the profile. Profile is something that we're discussing in level 3 that gives you another layer, another level to how the perspective is of a person. You know, do you connect easy with other people? Do you resonate quickly with other people? Those kinds of things. We're also taking a look at splits. We talked about those. And the circuitry, if you remember level 2, we discussed a lot of the circuitry there. And then the channels also, channels and gates, level 2. So what I'd love for you to do is, as you're seeing different things, please type them in, please play with me and see what you see in this person's life. Okay, so here we go. We start with Olivia. And who can tell me Olivia's type? Who can tell me Olivia's type? We see in this picture, this person has centers at the top and centers at the body, at the bottom of the body. So there is a split in the middle, right? So immediately this lets us know that this person sees life from 2 different areas that may not always be easy to connect. But when she does, she will have a very integrated experience of her life. So who can tell me? Yes, perfect. Leslie, excellent. Yes, this is a generator. And how we can know that this is a generator is because this person has this red square, the sacral center, that center of life force that Paolo said, uh-huh or uh-uh, or that open or close, feeling it through the body. Now, one thing that Olivia needs to be aware of is that she also has this center. And this center, remember, this is the emotional center. Now, what can you tell me about the emotional center, this solar plexus? What can you tell me about this solar plexus? What does that mean in terms of decision making? Just go ahead and type it in. Almost a manifesting generator. Almost. You know, if this person, a manifesting generator, would have the sacral center, but also have a connection all the way up to the throat. So if she would have this connection right here, that would make her a manifesting generator. Yes, absolutely. But in terms of decision making, this is really important. And what does this mean for Olivia? Micah says she has an emotional wave. Yes, exactly. And this emotional wave takes time. So Olivia, I know you can be very quick because you have this instant knowing. Sometimes you have a very sharp intuition, but this intuition can sometimes be too quick for you. You know, you can pay attention to this intuition. It is not how you are to make decisions. For you, decisions come over time. So what that does is it gives you information. Then you also have this gut response to whether or not your energy is available for it. But then your emotional wave, your emotions will give you, as they go up and down, you know, you'll have moments where you feel really excited, and then moments that you can feel really down about something, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said yes to that. Allow all these moments to just come by, and then experience what the question is that you need to have answered. If you still have a sense of discomfort, worry, some anxiousness, then it's not the right time to make a decision. And Olivia says, yes, she has to process and wait until she has a knowing. Exactly, exactly. Yes, and especially for you, Olivia, because you have not just 2 areas, right? We saw this one and then this one, but this one actually has a split right here as well, which means that you have 3 different ways in how you approach life. So for Olivia, for you, it can be really helpful that as you're processing, you're going to find yourself in an environment with other people. Because when you're in an environment with other people, they will hook up all these different connections for you, so that now you get access to all of you and you get a clearer idea as to what is right for you. You get to integrate it all. Now we can also see that Olivia has these 3 centers. Well, here we go. Like this center is completely white. So this is the center of inspiration. And we know that inspiration comes in for Olivia. Basically, she can be inspired by anything. Anything can be so beautiful that it moves her to tears. Whether it's a painting in a museum, or maybe it's a song or a poem, anything can just completely move her to tears. Beautiful. And Olivia, it's very fun to see, and you and I have the same life theme of explanation. So if you were a teacher, I'm not sure if you are, but you could definitely be a teacher. That's definitely in your way of being. Very fun to see. Let's see what else. Oh, here's another center that's completely white. There's no activations in it. Oh, Olivia says, yes, I'm a teacher. And Micah says, I have that too, and I'm a teacher too. I love all the teachers here. It's really, I always feel so honored to be able to have a chance to express what I feel so strongly about, what I feel it can make such a big difference. And that's for you too, Olivia. And Mike, I can't see your chart at the moment, but I'm assuming that's the same for you. Okay, so this particular center right here is this heart center. It's willpower. Now, the fact that you have it undefined doesn't mean that you don't have willpower. It means that with practice and with wisdom, you can use other people's willpower to make things happen. But what's really important for you to recognize is that you don't have anything to prove in this lifetime. You have nothing to prove to other people. And as a matter of fact, if you feel when you're engaging with other people that there is this sense of, oh, I have to really, try to assert myself, then that's not necessarily the right energy for you. So just be aware of that and go into your sacral response, into your emotional wave. See if it's the right relationship, the right connection for you. Okay, beautiful. And Paolo says, what makes you say that about being a teacher? Okay, so, and Micah is talking about the channel 2343, yes. So for Olivia, she has the Sun, Earth, and we're talking about the life theme here, or incarnation cross in other human design language. So these two and these two together, those 4, make up the life theme of explanation. An explanation that is grounded, and here we're looking at the profile, grounded in a solid foundation. So for Olivia, there is in general a sense of insecurity about her that makes her want to really get her foundation strong. She's an investigator. She really likes to research, because the more she knows, the stronger her foundation is, so that she can then express it. So now we're talking also about information, profile information that we're using in level 3. And all of that creates for Olivia this person that's here to externalize. And for Olivia as well, she also has this 45th gate. This is the gate of the queen or the king. So in Olivia's case, this 45th gate is this person who has this overview of what the emotional needs are. And here I'm just really pulling things together, right? Because this is the moon. So the moon is about our emotional nature, our mother. There's this mothering, this ability to have this overview of her community, to be able to recognize what her community needs, including education and teaching education. So for So what I'm doing here is I'm really pulling different levels of information together. So the 45th gate and all the channels we discuss in level 2, which is right over here as well, this channel that Micah talked about, the 4323. This 4323 is this channel of structuring. Now for Olivia, because it is unconscious, right? It's red, she may not always be aware of the information that comes out of her mouth. She will say things and then, oops, you know, I spoke my mind. It can be sometimes, you know, without her necessarily wanting to say what's on her mind, it might just come out. That can just happen for her. And you have the 45th gate too, Paolo. Beautiful. Yes. So for you, that would be the gate of the king. The same thing. You have that overview. And depending on whether your throat is defined or undefined, if it's defined, this is who you are. And if it's undefined, it only comes out when it's activated by other people. Yeah. So, all right, let's go on to another gate, or I'm sorry, another chart, because I have a lot of different charts and I would love to get as far as possible. Oh, and look at this. We have the same 23, 43, 49, 4, another explanation. So again, another teacher, also someone who has this channel of structuring, right? Now, who can tell me what the type is that we are looking at now? Here's Adair. What do you think his type is? And I know Adair wasn't able to make it on the call today, but he was so generous in offering his chart. Who can tell me what is his type? And just go ahead and type it in. So what we see is this red square, right? Red square. So we start with this sacral center that's defined, which brings us to a generator or a manifesting generator. Now let's take a look. So it is manifesting generator or generator. This is connected through here and then all the way up to the throat. So now there is a connection from the sacral center to the throat, a motor to the throat. So that is a manifesting generator. I know it can get really confusing in how the different constellations are, how they all connect together, which is just what I love, because you get the puzzle, you get to play. Okay, so here is Adair, who has this manifesting generator in that he, oh, where's my mouse? Here we go. He really is expressing himself, right? This is the center of the self. And one thing that we talked about in level 2 is about different kinds of circuitry. And when we look at Adair's chart, Adair has a lot of what we call individual circuitry. So what am I looking at? There is this channel right here, from the 39 all the way up to the 55, that is individual. There is this connection right here, which is actually part of the individual circuitry called the centering circuitry, but it also is individual circuitry. Then here is individual circuitry, and here up is individual circuitry. Now, who can tell me a little bit about what that means, individual circuitry? What is it like for Adair, do you think, to walk around in the world as an individual? Do you think he fits in? Do you think he feels like he fits in? What do you think? What do you think? Do you think he feels like he fits in? Yeah, you're right. No, right. People with individual circuitry are here to be different. So Adair, with a lot of individual circuitry, very often may find that he feels like a little bit of an outsider. And the thing is that he is an outsider. He is here to bring change in the world. He's here to catalyze a different way of being. And what he does is he sees these potentials, he sees these solutions, these different ways, and he speaks about it. And what happens is that people will kind of feel like, I'm not so sure about you. And the more often he speaks about it, it will start to make sense to people. That's part of this channel, this 2343. Another word or another name for this channel, instead of structuring, is also from genius to freak, or from freak to genius. In other words, when you start talking, it may come out to other people as garbled, like it doesn't make quite sense. So the more he speaks about it, the more he starts to structure it in a way that people can hear it. And when people are able to hear what he says is transformational. It's empowering. It completely can change people's lives. But it really takes time for people to really kind of get that. And by that time, he may already be on to the next new thing, right? Because he's here to continue to bring change. So having a very, very transformational way of being about him, right here, this connection brings to him that he has this very artistic way. This is the creative role model, this artistic way in how he is in the world. And he is an example that gives other people permission to be artistic, gives other people permission to do things in their way, in their own way. And one thing that is really strong in him is this connection that brings power to his own way of being. This 34th gate is the gate of power. The 10 is the gate of the self. So he is very powerful in being himself if he gives himself permission. Now the challenge with this particular connection here, that there is a desire to want to have validation from other people. And the thing is that he's not here to need validation. He's really here to be himself and to be the example in how he is that gives other people the empowerment and the transformation to be themselves. And when they are, that empowers him too to continue to be more of who he is in a very personalized way. Yeah? Excellent. Okay. Paulo says you have that channel too, right? The 2343, right? Does anybody else see anything else that you want to talk about in this particular chart before we move on? I'll take a little sip of my tea. All right, so let's move on to the next chart. Here we have Susie. Very different chart, right? Oh my gosh. So where we first saw a lot of different color, now we only have 2 centers that are defined. And let me just tell you one thing. The fact that this person only has 2 centers has absolutely nothing to do with the impact that they can make in the world. Okay, because sometimes I see people that say, well, I only have 2 centers defined. They can be the most powerful people in the world. As a matter of fact, President Obama, only has these 2 centers, the root and the solar plexus, connected through this channel right here. He is this beautiful visionary who has this amazing way in how the world can be. Those are the only 2 centers that he has defined, and he has certainly been able to make his mark. Now, the same here, that even though Susie has only these 2 centers, what this means for Susie is that she is actually incredibly powerful in making her will known. Can anybody tell me who this person, not who this person is, her name is Susie. Can anybody tell me what this person's type is? Yes, manifester. Manifester, yes, because this is a motor, and when a motor connects to the throat, it is a manifester, okay, without this center, the sacral center. So what this means is this is this heart center, and look at this heart center. All of it is active. You see, all these different gates are active, which means that there is a lot of power, willpower, determination that Susie puts into the world. And guess what? This channel that she has, this is the money channel, the money line. Kind of nice, doesn't it? The sound. Money line doesn't necessarily mean that she will always have money. But what it does mean is that she has the ability to make money. It's a very material channel. It's also what we call tribal. So when we talked about the different circuitry in level 1 a little bit, and then much more so in level 2, when we're talking about the tribal circuitry, the tribal is all about supporting each other and having these agreements, like I do this for you and you do this for me. So Susie is really incredible in making things happen for her tribe, for her family, for the people that she finds important. And by the way, I apologize. I am hearing the landscapers come by with their blowers. So I hope it doesn't interfere with your sound, that you can still hear me. But I apologize for that. So here we have this manifester putting this massive amount of force into the world, making happen what she sees is important and being able to take care of the tribe. Now, one thing that Susie needs to be aware of is, because you see all these other connections are all undefined, all these other motors, which means that there is a tendency or a possibility for Susie to put in too much force and borrow energy from other people. And as she makes things happen in the world, to go over her own boundaries in the amount of energy that she has. So Susie needs to check in with herself and really take time to refresh her centers, okay? Because as a manifester, you can just drive. You can push, and make things happen. I apologize. It's getting louder and louder. So in order for her to make things happen, she needs to have the energy herself. There's a certain amount of energy that she can borrow, that she can tap into with other people. But if she goes past that, she can truly get burnt out. And that will cost her in a very deep way. So those are these areas where she invites other people in. And she doesn't have to worry about that. Those people will come into her life without her even trying to find someone. And when they do, again, she can borrow their information, but she has to be careful that she doesn't overcommit. This 29th gate is the gate of saying yes, the gate of commitment. And she has this one in her Jupiter twice. You see it over here. Jupiter is expansion. So wherever she says yes to people, she brings expansion to other people, which is a beautiful thing. As long as she really takes care of herself and really checks in, like, is my energy available for this? Like, is my willpower available? Do I want this? And then as a manifester, her key in making things happen without resistance is to inform other people. Because if you just start pushing your way through, you will get a lot of resistance. But if Susie lets people know, like, hey, I see that this is missing and I want to focus on that, I want to create this, then other people can get on board. And whether or not they want to help her is different. That's not the question. It's really, they're going to release that resistance. And that will give Susie the peace to go her own way and to really make things happen. Any questions about what you see? Okay, can people hear me? I want to check in really quick. Can people hear me? Can people hear me? Okay, so Paulo says yes. All right. So I apologize for the noise around me. Oh, my voice is in the background. That's weird. I'm wondering. Okay, is this better? Like, I'm far from my mic because I'm wondering if my mic is not working well enough. Oh, that's better. Beautiful. Excellent. Okay, thank you. And thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that because I really want to make this easy for everybody to understand. All right. So anybody else, any questions about Susie's chart? And I will go on to the next. Okay, so the thing is that what I just said about Susie's chart, if you unfortunately didn't hear it, I hope you'll be able to listen to the recording again, and hopefully the recording caught it. Okay, there's Mercury retrograde in action, right? And it looks like the blowers are slowly making their way back. I apologize for that. All right. Um, and Paulo says the heart is a motor. Yes, correct. So one of the things that we talk about in level 1 are the 4 motors. We talk about the root center is a motor, the sacral center is a motor, the emotional center is a motor, and here is another motor. So looking at Susan's chart, knowing that there is a motor connected to the throat, what does that make her? What is that type? There's the sacral center as well as the motor to the throat. Yes, it's a manifesting generator. Yes, perfect. So in Susan's case, there's a lot going on. So first of all, Susan's connections are all connected together, right? You see that? All of these are all connected together. What that means is that there's no split. And what that means for Susan is that she can be really quick in grasping information. So the way the information comes in for her, she can just immediately get this internal gut response, but then she will have to wait for her emotional awareness. Now, this may not always be easy, right? Because look at this. This is completely undefined, or I'm sorry, completely red, meaning that it's unconscious. She may not necessarily be aware in how she speaks about her emotions. Yes, does that make sense? Because this is the emotional center that connects to the throat, right? It brings the emotions out. So Susan may not necessarily be aware in how she speaks about it. What she is aware, though, of herself is these 2 connections. And these 2 connections are really powerful in her chart because they're all about the tribal. And the thing with the tribal, as we talked about before, it's about support. It's also about agreements. So Susan is someone who tends to work harder for other people and put out more than that she gets back. This particular connection, which is the channel, where's my mouse here, between the 37 in the emotional center to the 40th gate in the center of the heart, this connection together is the channel of the family. So for Susan, she will treat people like their family, like they're part of her community. I have the same connection for me when I'm on the call with you. I feel like you're part of my family. You're part of my community. Now, the other part of this channel is that it's called the channel of bargaining. When you have this connection, you tend to put out more than that you can get back or that you get back from other people. So there is always this internal check-in that would be good for Susan to do on a regular basis. Like, am I receiving as much value as I'm putting out? You know, and if you feel in a relationship that, you know, I do more than you, then let's renegotiate. It's all about renegotiating. All right. It's about supporting each other through agreements. It's about touch and connecting. It's about having this sense of we're all in this together. Yeah. That really is very important for Susan in this lifetime. Okay, now when we look at Susan's chart too, we see that these 2 centers are undefined. Now, if you have these 2 centers undefined, does anybody know what that might mean? What might that mean for Susan? What do you think this might mean? So this is the center of inspiration. This is the center of conceptualization, how we make this inspiration mean something. What can we turn it into? Yes, Paulo says it's open to the outside, exactly. So there is this openness where you receive information from other people. So for Susan, this might mean that she can pick up other people's thoughts. She can pick up, you know, walk into a room and she can kind of spot what other people are thinking about. And as my mentor Shatan says, and most of it is not interesting. Most people's thoughts are not that interesting as we might think. But this also means that Susan might be getting distracted easily. She might find herself lose focus very easily, and especially right now with so much Pluto and so much Neptune in our, that's having all these interesting transits happening. There might be this kind of sense of feeling distracted and not quite feeling on it in a sense. There is a potential also to want to try to solve other people's problems, which when Susan is around other people and they're asking for it, and she gets that gut response and she gets that emotional wisdom that says, yes, do it, the timing is now, this is good, then she can explain herself and she can share about these crises, these things that she has gone through, that she has learned from, that other people can really learn from too. But there may be a tendency to want to share about those things when the moment is not right. So that's always a question for Susan. Is the timing right or not? And Paulo says it's difficult to focus with people around and quieting the mind. Yes, you have this open too? Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's where, this whole mindfulness, it's about being able to just kind of let the thoughts go, right? They're not yours. Let them pass through. That's a good focus. Okay, so here we have Paula. And Paula has a very different chart. So we see a lot is lit up over here, a lot of connections. So this is one connection, and then this is another connection, and then here's a third connection, meaning that there is a triple split. So for Paula, information comes in different ways. It's different ways in how she processes information, but her real knowing comes from her gut response. And her gut response will tell her yes or no. And the thing is that she might just find herself getting into action so quickly because look, here is this sacral center going directly into the throat, expressing itself immediately. So here's this sacral center just always being busy, always putting out that energy, always making things happen, while the mind says, but hey, wait, we may not have seen the answer yet. And here is this intuition saying, but wait, I have this little voice that gives other information. So for Paula, it's a good idea to be around other people so that she can put all this wisdom that she has, because she is amazing in that sense. She is able to really see the things that are not right in society, the things that can have a change, and being able to give solutions around that. And she has this ability to align with people who are, and I was looking here, this channel is all about being able to see solutions and things that are not right for the pattern, where she can see different possibilities. And then over here, this channel is being able to align herself with other people that can move her vision forward, that can really bring her into contact with people that can help her make this a reality. And then, of course, this tremendous amount of energy that can just make it happen. There's a lot of energy that can move here. Yeah. Now, where she might get herself caught, and Paulo says it's not easy. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. So here, where she can get caught is, first of all, again, if she's not taking enough time to put these pieces together. Sorry. So for her, being around other people can be good to be able to bring those connections, but she won't find herself wanting to be other people a lot. That can be too much for her. So she can go into groups and then out, and then again into other groups and out. So for her, if she would be working in a corporation, it's good to have different groups to kind of tap into throughout the day, so she can bring those different connections together in different ways. And where she can get caught is this area, this emotional center, because she'll be very sensitive to other people's emotions, to such an extent that she may feel responsible in having to, fix other people's emotions or take things on for them. And it's not her job. Okay, it's not her job. All right, now let's move on to Gabrielle. Gabrielle, and so, by the way, I know that we are 5 minutes to the top of the hour. I have many more charts that I have to share with you, or that I can share with you. So I am just going to continue until we get to the end. So it will probably be another, I don't know, 30 minutes or so. If you're able to stay, please do so. Otherwise, you can always listen to the recordings, because we are going to talk about different charts in different ways. And if you want to find out more about all these different things that I talk about, we do discuss them in the different levels 1 and level 2, and those are both actually available for home study for now. And then level 3, we will start April 27th. I'm really excited about that, because we're going to be looking at, as I mentioned, profile, but also at relationships. Like, okay, you're looking at one person, but what happens when you put two people together? All of a sudden, something completely different happens, and it pulls different parts out of us. And it gives you these, oh, this is where we click. And also the realization, like, oh, this is where we not click. This is why we are having issues, or where the challenges are within a relationship. Okay, so here we have Gabrielle, and Gabrielle has a different chart. Again, now we do not have this sacral center, and we do not have a motor connected to the throat. So what do you think this type is? What do you think this type is? And while you type that in, I will go ahead and take a sip of my tea. What do you think this type is? Beautiful. Yes, correct. This is a projector, because the projector does not have the sacral center fill in. We know that when the sacral center fills in, it's either the generator or the manifesting generator. There is no motor to the throat, so therefore this is a projector. Now, what this means for Gabrielle is that she has this beautiful focused energy that's here to be a guide to people, and that's here to be able to recognize where people's energy moves best and how they fit within the larger plan. But it needs to be invited. She needs to be invited. She needs to know whether her energy, her focus is welcome or not. Otherwise, she can find, this deer in the headlight look from other people, like, whoa, that was intense. And I've had it experienced myself as a generator. I can feel the energy of a projector when I don't invite it versus when I do invite. And Gabrielle, one thing to know as a projector, and this is not official human design information, this is my personal experience. Officially, the projector is the one who needs to be invited. My personal experience from a generator, that when I am invited by a projector who sees in me and who sees who and what I am and recognizes me, that makes me feel really special. And that really opens up different, venues, opportunities for me. So Gabrielle, just keep that in mind, that it's not you having to sit back and just waiting for the invitation, because those invitations will come, but to recognize where you feel recognized, because and watching your frequency. The more aligned you are with yourself, the more you know your own frequency, the purer you are for other people to capture your frequency. And you will bring those people around you. You don't have to worry about that. But just make sure that you are really, truly aligned with you. Okay, so what are we talking about in terms of Gabrielle being aligned with Gabrielle? So here we see someone who has a very strong sense of self, who is very strongly connected. This second gate is this gate of receptivity. It's being connected up to the universe. And even though Gabrielle may not necessarily be able to put into words, where she is or how she is or who she is, she knows that deeply in her life she is guided. There is this constant connection that the universe will take care of me. Even though I may not necessarily be able to, voice it right here from my mind, there is this internal connection. And Gabrielle, I don't know if you're on the line, but if you want to share something about that, please feel free to do so. And there's this other beautiful connection right here, this 1333, which is all about being able to really deeply listen to people's stories. Very often when I see people with this connection, there tends to be someone who's either like a coach or a consultant or a counselor, someone who is able to listen deeply to other people and being able to then through that bring solutions or either help someone through their stories, bring them back in their life path. Really beautiful. And so here we see those open areas, those undefined areas, those areas that are white. So where Gabrielle can be pulled off track is when other people fill this center, this sacral center or this emotional center in for her. And this can feel really yummy, right? There is this sense of kind of plugging into the energy of other people, which can be really exciting. And for Gabrielle, it's a constant check-in with herself, like, ooh, where is my energy going? Do I have enough energy to keep this going, or do I need to take my time? I have two daughters. My oldest daughter is a projector. My youngest daughter is a manifesting generator. Very different in terms in how they use their energy. And so my oldest daughter, she's the one who reads books, who's always said, I'm just going to be by myself and I'm just telling myself stories, or now she's, on the computer or, listening to books on tape, just really needing time by herself. While her younger sister, a manifesting generator, which I call my bouncy ball because her energy is like boom, boom, boom. It's always busy, always on the go, very different energy. So for Gabrielle, the fact that you don't necessarily have consistent access to these two motors, really want to take time to be by yourself, refresh your energy, have a chance to kind of cleanse your centers, whether that is by taking walks in nature or, like I said, reading like my oldest daughter does, just allowing yourself to be by yourself and not feel pressured or pushed by the craziness around you that's always happening, the busyness of the world. Okay, Paulo says, is it true that the projector can be very addicted to talk and not listen when they're not invited, like feed on the sacral energy? It's your experience with projectors. It depends. It depends on if this center is defined or not. So when someone has an undefined center here, the undefined throat means that you're open to the influence of other people. So very often, the person who speaks most in a group is someone with an undefined throat. And it's like there's this constant pressure on their throat and they have to express it. It's very interesting to watch. And the people with a defined throat tend to be, not necessarily speak quite as much, unless there is this energy, where's my mouse? Unless there is this energy that moves up, from the sacral or from another motor expressing itself to the throat, like that pressure. Yeah. So that's one way in how a projector can really express a lot, but not necessarily. What I want to say, it doesn't necessarily have to do with the projector per se. The not connected to their sacral center can definitely make them busy and make them run back and forth and doing all those things for other people. You may see that happen. Yeah. Okay. Here we have Doña. And what is Doña's type? What do you think? What is Donya's type? So again, the first thing that we want to look at, does she have a sacral center defined? No, she does not. And does she have a motor to the throat? Not really, right? There is quite a wide split in here. So what this means is that there is this big disconnect in a sense. Like there's a lot going on here that is not necessarily always aware here. And the thing with this person is that Donya has this amazing awareness. And one of the things that I look at when I look at awareness is, you see those stripy gates? You know, you see there's 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. When someone has a lot of those red and black striped gates, those are places where the unconscious becomes conscious. When that happens, it means that there is more awareness than other people may have. And that can be painful for Donya because she can see people that she loves do things and wanting to share, wait, hold on, I can see that what you're about to do is really not going to work. And for Donya, this means that she just has to keep back, hold the space, because she knows that it's not going to help to tell people whether or not to do certain things. You know, people have to find their own way, unfortunately, and that can be, you know, asking a lot sometimes. So for Donya, it's definitely a place of holding space, and especially because you can see those solutions. You know, when I look here at that amazing mind has these great ideas in how other people can do things, and great solutions for the things that you can see possible that would bring so much more love and so much more joy in people's lives. And the thing is that most people won't be open unless they are asking for, you know, your insight, you know, unless as a projector you are invited, Donya, to be able to share that. And when you are invited, oh my gosh, you are able to give this amazing wisdom that will have a chance to really change people's lives, to really see the ability to how to grow from conflict, how to grow from crises, and how to use those things that we may consider the challenges in our lives in such a way that people can grow through them, because you have gone through them, you have that experience, and you can see for them what is possible. So that is what you have to share in this lifetime. Donya says, yes, it's true. That's great. Excellent. Anything else you want to share about your chart, Donya, before we move on? Any other thoughts before we move on? Okay. And Donya, if you still want to share, please feel free to do so. And we're taking a look now at Sue's chart. Okay, good. Excellent. All right, so here we have Sue. And Sue, as you can see, is not a projector because she has this sacral center. She also has this center defined as well as this center. So for Sue, her wisdom comes from 3 different ways. It comes through her intuition. If she's paying attention, she will hear this tiny little voice that sounds only in the now, and it can give her a lot of, like, you know, information about being safe, information about other people, whether or not to get involved with other people. And then here, there's this sacral center that says, yes, we're available for this, or no, we're not. But what's most important here is to listen to the emotional wave. Okay. And your emotional wave is this, you know, going up and down. Sue may not necessarily be aware of that because you can see this is red. So this red line tells us that she's very sensitive to other people, but she may not necessarily be aware of how sensitive she is to other people's needs. She may find other people's needs more important than her own needs. And as a matter of fact, Sue, you're the kind of person, and I'm looking at your sun, which is the 27th gate. You can see here your conscious sun. The conscious sun here is in this gate of the nourishing, wanting to take care of other people. So this ability to taking care of other people, as long as you listen to your gut response and your emotional wisdom, you take care of other people's needs in a way that's helpful and healthy for everybody. But you have to be really in check with yourself, because otherwise you can find yourself going past your boundaries and just doing way too much for other people. Okay. Anything, yes, emotional generator, Paolo, you got it. I love it. Excellent. Okay, what else do we see in Sue's chart? What is something that you see that you may have a question about, or what is something that you see that is curious to you? Something that's defined or undefined? What do you see? What do you have a question about? And just go ahead and type that in. I'm taking another sip of my tea. So I hope that so far what you're getting from this is that whether someone has a lot of centers defined or only a few centers defined, it doesn't make them less or more powerful. Basically, you come into this lifetime with the right amount of centers defined that is necessary for your lifetime, meaning that those other areas is where you invite life in. This is where you get to play. This is where you are here to learn through, become wise about, and experience life through. And that you don't have to worry about trying to make the connections in between, because other people will make those for you. And if you follow, in Sue's case, her gut response and her emotional wisdom, she will bring those people that will bring the connections to those other areas for her, so that she gets to experience those other areas. Any questions about this chart? Okay, let's move on. All right, here we have Brooke. Now, again, someone who has a lot of definition, and in this case, the definition is all connected. Look at this. It's very unusual to see a chart with everything connected like this. There we go. So again, I'm going to cough one moment. So here we see someone who has that individual circuitry that we talked about earlier, right over here. This is all individual, right here. And this individual circuitry can give Brooke sometimes the feeling that she's not really fitting in. But then again, she also has this tribal circuitry right here and abstract circuitry. Abstract circuitry is not something that we have talked about yet. So abstract circuitry is where we look at the past, and it's all about sharing the experience to be able to look back and take a look at and making sense out of the experience. So here we together go through these things. We're sharing it together. We're really delving into the experience. And then what is it that we're learning from this? How does this make sense? You know, what other wisdoms are out there that, and I'm talking about, you know, ancient wisdoms, whether that's astrology, whether that is, you know, ancient civilizations like Egypt, Atlantis, all these different things will be kind of curious, will be interesting to Brooke to be able to look back and say, wow, this is how things make sense. Yeah, to get the wisdom out of this. All right, what is it that we see in Brooke's chart? What do you have a question about in Brooke's chart? So we see that there are some activations here in an undefined center. So this means that Brooke doesn't always have access to this undefined center of the spleen, which means that Brooke can find herself staying in relationships or work or even homes too long because they make her feel good in a certain way. And let's see, there is this ability to become really wise about the health of other people. When you have this undefined, you are sensitive to other people's health. And very often, the way to take care of your own health, if you have this undefined, is with alternative medicine. Like allopathic medicine very often can be too harsh, but alternative medicine is just much more gentle to the system of someone with an undefined health center, undefined spleen center. Now you also have this 18th gate here. Well, here's my mouse. This 18th gate in the bottom of the spleen. The 18th gate always has this ability to look very critical, very often at yourself. So this is often someone who does a lot of, or has done a lot of work on themselves, always, trying to find what it is that they can do better, and that how they can be a better person, how they can love better, how they can be kinder. And most important is how to be more kind to yourself. And Brooke, I'm talking to this in you because I have this gate 3 times. So I know what this is like. Definitely a lot of interest in and internal desire to look really deep and wanting to make changes so that life can be different and better for everybody. All right, Brooke, anything that you want to share? If you're on the line, you can just go ahead and put that in the chat. If there's anything that you have to share or any question that you have, now is the time. Love to hear any thoughts, any comments. You can put them in the chat. And let's go on to Jani. Okay, so Jani, here we have your chart, and what can we say about Jani? What do you think Jani's type is? By now it should be pretty easy, right? Jani's type. Any thoughts? See, we see this red square. Yes, exactly. She is a generator. Now, being a generator, having that amount of energy running here between the 3 and this one, there's a lot of power, a lot of energy happening. And this is pressure to live, right? So for Jani, it's really important that she has a daily way of exercising, because this is the center of the adrenals, the center of stress. And when you have this one defined, yes, there are definitely a lot of channels. When you have this one defined, it means that you're here to handle stress. But if you don't move every day, the adrenals will turn inward. So it's very important for Jani that she keeps moving every day, whether that is swimming, whether you run or walk with the dog, anything like that. Just make sure you have exercise every single day, because otherwise it can turn inward, because the energy needs to have a place to go. Now, when it can go places, boy, you can make tremendous difference in the world. Here we go. So there is this amazing connection of the 34th gate through the 57th. Now, you may not necessarily be aware of this as it happens, but it's a more like a theme in your life. This is how you can kind of recognize that things have happened for you as you've gone on, is that you can walk into businesses or projects and you can take them on, and then suddenly you can really pull your force behind it and catalyze them into something amazing. And when you do this with people, someone who can be really on the down and out, you can pick them up and support them and make them, really great. And then there is the time when you have to let go, and you have to let them stand on their own 2 feet. And then the question is, will they still stand? Or will you have to pick them back up again and move your energy behind it and really push this through? So you have, as I mentioned, a tremendous amount of energy. You bring in your willpower, you bring in the sacral energy, you also bring in this connection, which is that connection of being able to see who to align yourself with to be able to move the project forward, for instance, but also where the wind is turning. You know, it's this amazing ability. Like if you are an entrepreneur or we're an entrepreneur, you always have this ability to know when the wind is shifting, when it's time to move into a different direction with your business, where to go, as long as you pay attention. That's the main thing. So let me check really quick. Rudolph, Brooke Rudolph is saying about her chart, astrologically a lot in the 12th house, fit with looking deeper and at source, what's really going on behind this plane. Yes, exactly. Always trying to find the meaning into things. Beautiful. Okay. So Jani, again, you're here to make major changes into people's lives. Entrepreneur is definitely you. You could also be an amazing coach or consultant because you have this ability to begin new things, to really pick them up and really make them into something. There's a lot of energy there for you and amazing wisdom too. Now, there is a tendency for you to want to live life from your mind and let your mind make those decisions. Your mind, I have to tell you, is not here for you. Your mind is here to help other people to bring amazing transformation and inspiration in their life, not necessarily for you. You do best by following your gut response, okay? And here you have this emotional center. The emotional center is completely open, being very sensitive to other people's emotions. So what that means for you is you are not here to have to rescue other people. There is a tendency to want to do that, but when other people are upset, it is actually toxic to you. It can get really deep in you. And the thing is that with emotional people who have this center defined, their emotions are constantly in flux. They'll feel great and then they don't, and then a few hours later they'll feel great again. For you, if an emotional person is not feeling good and they dump their story on you and you take it in, it's going to take you a long time to deal with that. You know, it's not just going to be an hour or a couple hours. You know, you'll tend to keep processing this for maybe even days. So take really good care of yourself when you're in an environment with other people that are really emotional, that you find ways in how you manage that. One of the things that I can suggest to you is using HeartMath. I've studied HeartMath many years. I worked there for many years, and I'm very, very familiar with the HeartMath techniques and how they can help. So definitely look into HeartMath techniques. If you have a chance to listen in the level 1 classes, we talk about the quick coherence technique, and there's a recording of the quick coherence technique. So that might be really helpful just to use for yourself on a regular basis to keep the center clean. And Paulo says, a lot of people say that generators cannot initiate things like projects, for example. So that's an interesting way in phrasing it, because manifestors are the real initiators. They're the ones who catalyze new things. Projectors, or in this case, generators, they can start new things once they've gotten an internal aha. So that means that Jani can be listening to a song, and the song is naming something, and all of a sudden Jani says, oh, that reminds me of, that's a response. Maybe I should use this to da-da-da. That's a response. So whether you hear someone speak or whether you hear whether you read something in a newspaper, this is what brought me to coaching many, many, many years ago. You know, my ex-husband and I, at the time, we had sold our house and we had taken our 1.5-year-old girl to travel around the world. So we traveled for almost a year. But the reason for that was because we were kind of lost. We were looking for our purpose. What is it that we're supposed to do with our lives? So here we sold everything. We traveled around the world trying to find our purpose, coming back after almost a year and still haven't found our purpose. I'm at home within like a month. I'm looking through my newspapers and my magazines, and there's this new magazine at that time that was Oprah's magazine. Yeah, this is like the year 2000, right? So looking through the magazines, here is this article that Martha Beck writes about this new profession called life coaching. And I had goosebumps all over. That was my response to say, oh, that's what I've always done. I want to delve deeper into this. I want to become a coach. So it wasn't me saying from the outset, I'm going to become a coach. It was me responding to something. And the same for Janie. There may be so many different things that she can respond to that will be just the right thing that says, oh, now I want to help this company, or I know what to do. Having this amazing idea, because she is a great idea person, to be able to help this company move forward. All right. Good. I'm glad this helps. Yes, exactly. Flowing with the synchronicities. Absolutely. As a generator, as a projector, as a reflector, manifestor, synchronicities are actually for everybody. But if you have your gut response, if you check in with your gut response as a generator, yes, those synchronicities bring you from the one yes to the next yes to the next yes. That's all about finding your flow in life. Perfect. Going from satisfaction to satisfaction to satisfaction. Excellent. Okay, here we have Chawa Cheng. Chawa Cheng, sorry, the photo is a little vague. We see that Chawa Cheng is a projector. So for her, it means that there needs to be an invitation. And the invitation can come in many different ways. So one thing that I'd love for a projector to know is that an invitation is not, this beautiful gold embossed envelope, which is nice if you get it that way, right? Invitation can simply be a look. It can be like right? It can be a glance from across the room. It can be someone walking up to you and being able to just be open to recognize where the invitation comes from. And then, do I feel recognized? Do I feel that this person really sees me? Because that's when you get to be your purest frequency, when you get to bring in those invitations that are truly helping you to express your beautiful you, so that you can be that guide. Because that's what you're doing here, being that guide. Okay. So Chawa Cheng has this separate connection right here, a separate connection right here, and a separate connection from the top three. So me being a triple split for Chawa Cheng also means that for her as a projector, it's really beautiful work to go into different groups at different times, to be able to bring in information, process that information from the different groups. For her to be around the same group of people all the time, oh, it's terrible. It's not very good for her. As a triple split, you really need to have the time by yourself to integrate all the different flavors of what you've brought in. Okay. What else do we want to talk about? Does anybody have any questions about this chart? It's a very powerful throat, by the way. Look at how many activations there are. So what that means for Chawa Cheng is that she has different ways in how she speaks. She can speak with people in many different ways. She can talk from experience. She can talk from, I believe this or that. I know, etc. I've done this. I know how this goes. I've been there. I have that experience. And she has a way to speak with influence, so that when people hear her speak, they pay attention, because she's got a lot of beautiful things to say. Any questions, any thoughts? I'm looking at the chat. Does anybody have any questions or any thoughts about this chart? And for Chawa Cheng, again, This is unconscious, right? It's red. So she may not necessarily know what she feels about things. And because her decision making comes from here, she needs to make sure that when it's about, when she's dealing with difficult decisions, with big things, to be in an environment like going to the mall or going to a coffee shop where other people make up the connections, but don't necessarily have a skin in the game. So they don't have an agenda. That way she can get in touch with what she really feels about things. Because you can see it's not that difficult to connect these up to her throat, but she does need to have someone bridge that for her. Okay, all right. And here we have Ursula, and I think we're getting close to being done. A couple more charts, and then I think we're there. All right, so Ursula, very different chart. As you can see, there's just 2 centers. Again, doesn't mean she's less powerful, because as a matter of fact, this is a very powerful person. I know Ursula. And as you can see, Ursula also has a lot of awareness. You can see these little stripy gates, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A lot of different stripy gates. So a lot of awareness where other people may not see things that she does. This ability to see possibilities, to have ideas. This is an idea person. She has this 11th gate. She conceptualizes ideas that she can get from the environment to help the environment, to help other people, and that she can then communicate. Now, Ursula is a manifesting generator, right? It's this generator motor that goes directly to the throat, so she can get into action really quick. She's one of the quickest people she knows. She's also one of the busiest people she knows. And so for Ursula, the question is always, what am I being busy with? Am I being busy with the right thing? Am I being busy with the things that are really useful? And am I being busy with bringing out things that fill the desires that I have? This is the 30th gate, the gate of desires. It's her sun, meaning that your sun, Ursula, you don't necessarily have access to your sun all the time. It depends on who is around you. So sometimes with other people around you, you can feel all the way lit up, like it gives you this part of yourself, this access to a big part of you that normally you may not necessarily have access to. Okay. So Paolo says, it's a very aware person. Yes, and she is a manifesting generator. Great. I love how you're on it you are. You got this. I love it. All right, anybody, anything else about this chart? There is a lot of areas where Ursula is bringing in her environment, bringing in life force energy, bringing in the emotions from other people, the willpower from other people to then control the environment and make things really organized in a way, to have the leadership, to lead people in an organized way, to be busy. People around Ursula will be busy, just so you know. All right. So then here we go to Leslie, and Leslie has also a projector chart. Projector chart with wisdom coming in through this area of the spleen. So she has this little tiny voice that tells her in the now, gives her information to what is safe, what's not safe, where to go, who to engage with. She will have these moments, but they only happen now. So she needs to pay attention. She needs to know, to listen to those moments, because if she doesn't, it'll disappear and it won't come back. Yeah, the moment will be past. So it's very important to be in the now and wait. Right here we have this waiting. I'm sorry, did I just say she's a projector? She is actually a manifester. My apologies. So here is this energy of this emotional center that needs to wait. That wisdom that her emotions will bring over time to give her the information to make decisions. Now, for Leslie, having this connection directly to the throat, this is a channel that's individual. It's the channel that is a channel of It's channel of the social being, meaning that when Leslie feels good, this channel allows her to be really available to other people, to really listen to what they have to say, to really create this sense of like the social ability, loving music, loving to listen to music. Unless the emotional wave is down, it's very much connected to how am I expressing my emotions to my throat. When Leslie feels down, which is something that over her lifetime she gets more and more familiar with, right? So over her lifetime, Leslie becomes more and more familiar and comfortable with how her emotions move through her, so that when she is feeling down, when she has that moodiness of that individual circuitry that all individual circuitry brings, that's the time when she pulls back. It's really time when she needs to be by herself. And all of a sudden, instead of that social being, she can become antisocial. Leave me alone. Don't bother me. I don't want to deal with you. So there is this wisdom of learning how to flow with that emotion, to bring either people in or to say, okay, I really need my space now. Very important for Leslie to know, because it also helps people, it helps her with the people around her. And as we already talked about with manifestors, you know, there is this energy of making things happen, this catalyst. And Leslie is really great at that. And she can get burned out. You know, she's probably got her, you know, calendar completely full with all the things that she wants to make happen. For her to always check in with herself, like, hey, am I taking my rest? Am I taking time for myself? Which is something that she really needs, because she can burn herself out otherwise. And informing. Being able to get rid of that resistance instead of trying to push and force your way. Just letting other people know, hey, this is what I'm planning, this is what I'm doing, and I know that Leslie is doing really amazing things in the world. So the more that she informs other people, the more interest she gathers from other people to want to be part of what she's doing, because she's creating an intentional community. What an amazing thing in the world that we need today. Okay, any questions about Leslie's chart? And again, for Leslie, it's important that her beautiful, amazing, quick mind that has this ability to channel if she wants, that this amazing, quick mind is not just making the decisions for her. You know, it will try to, but as a matter of fact, this is really where her energy moves through. This is where her decision making comes from. Okay, she brings in a lot here. Any questions? Any thoughts? What the 63rd gate does over here. So the 63-4, so here's where the quantum principle happens. It's not just the 63. As soon as the 63 connects to the 4, it becomes this exponentially different thing. So the 63rd gate is the gate of doubts. It looks at the environment and says, what's not completely right here? What needs to change? What is the pattern that I see needs to go differently? And then the 4th gate is the gate that says, I've got the answer. I may not know the right question, but I've got the answer. So now the 63-4 together, the 63-4 together brings this channel of being able to logically look at the patterns and see what's not right, and then being able to immediately give a solution. And in Leslie's sense, it's a solution that is, because it's this is connected to Venus. This is beauty, right? This is love. So it's an answer, finding solutions that have to do with bringing love in the world in a way that solves people's problems. That's very heart-opening. The 4th line with the 4th gate. So here, a little pre-taste of level 3 when we talk about profile, we talk about all the different line numbers. The 4th line has everything to do with the heart. and having an open, vulnerable heart and being able to share that connection and love and express that in the world. So for Leslie, that comes through being able to see what's not right and being able to come up with solutions that bring that loving connection in the world. Pretty cool. Okay, so next question, Leslie is asking, is the solar plexus like the gut instinct? I do have that. No, you're, sorry. The gut is coming from here. The instinct is coming from here. The solar plexus is that emotional experience, that wave that goes up and down, that gives you that wisdom. For you, if you feel anxious about any decision, if there is a certain anxiety around something still, then it's not the right time to make the decision. It needs to get to this clarity. Your instinct on the other side, that little voice, that is very clear. That's that instant knowing that you're bringing in. Does that make sense? Okay, okay, good. And Paulo says, I have the 63 in a completely open mind in Ajna. Okay, so the 63, if you have this completely open, the two centers, the 63rd gate then doesn't operate for you, it operates for other people. So that means when other people are around you and create a connection here for you that fills this in, all of a sudden you have access to the 63rd gate that then looks at other people, and now you have the questions for other people. You will start asking, well, are you sure this would work? Do you think there might be a different way? What other ways are there? You know, now you have the questions that other people need to ask about their situation in order to get to the right information. So those questions that you may have are never for you. They're always for other people. Okay? It's a very cool thing. I really love how we, you know, I keep saying this, we're not islands. So when we are connecting with other people, all of a sudden we get access to these different parts of us that give us deeper information, but are really here to help the other person, to pull out the other person, to help them grow. And anyway, I can go on. My soapbox, I love it. Okay. So you need to be with a person with the 4th gate to find more of my profound questions. That's one way. Another way could simply be if someone else has this center defined with this connection, or if there is a transit that makes this connection happen, then those questions will come out of you. Okay? You don't necessarily have to have someone with the 4th gate. Someone with the 4th gate will bring an ease in how the answers come out, in how the questions come out to the answers. You get access to the answers too. But again, they're not for you, they're for the other person. Okay. Is it related with channeling? So yes, I haven't. So it's really interesting because I'm always playing with how different things play out for different people. People who have these connected, or who have just little parts connected, they can find themselves channel. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody who has these configurations, sorry, that have those configurations actually channel. I've been, sorry about that. I have been very interested in doing like a survey. Like, if you have this, do you XYZ? Like, for me, a number of people that I know with this center undefined, they actually tend to be not very neat. It means that their household, they have their organization, which can be in other people's eyes quite messy. I have this one defined, and I just notice that the people around me tend to be okay with more mess than I can be okay with. I don't know if that's true, because I've not been able to actually do a full-on survey, but it's just something that I notice, and occasionally I'll ask people about it. So, Paulo, this is a great question. It's something that I've noticed, that people who have these connections, they tend to channel. Doesn't mean that they automatically do, because sometimes, you know, they may just be very logical and may just really not see the world like that. Okay. All right. Any other questions? And I love all the questions, by the way. They're great. Looks like we got to the, okay, Leslie says, I don't channel. Well, there you go. So thank you for that. So there's someone who has all those connections and she says she doesn't channel. So perfect. So I'm thinking that for Leslie, the information just comes through, the inspiration comes in a different way in how it expresses itself for other people. All right, so last thing, I want to remind you and I invite you to join the Relationship Blueprint class, which we're going to talk about relationships and profiles the end of April on the 27th, same time as last time. It's a 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. By that time, the rest of the world will also be in daylight savings time, so it should be a little easier. If you're interested, there's the link to it. I would suggest, if you haven't done level 1 and 2, but you are interested in the relationship class, to do sign up for level 1 and 2. You can do them as a home study course. Basically, you'll sign up and you get access to those sessions yourself. You can always email me for questions, and I do, on a regular basis, do live calls like these, but actually more in a coaching style where we're using the charts of people on the call. So you can ask questions about your own chart. Like, this is what's going on for me at this time. What in my chart is helpful for this and such. So those are ways in how you can learn about the centers, learn about the different channels, the gates, because all that information is coming together in this Relationship Blueprint class. And I'd really love for you to join me. It's going to be a ton of fun. All right. That said, this was a lot of information as usual. I always love sharing this with you, and I'm so appreciative of all the comments and the questions that make this class just alive for everybody. I hope you got a lot out of this, and yeah, I wish you all just an amazing day, an amazing week, and I hope to connect with you again soon. All right, take care.